actually get into, and Deborah's referred to this, and it's covered in the minutes, because I felt for some while that I know technical is not the right word, but I didn't have sufficient detailed knowledge of the scheme regulations, that I wouldn't like to use the word challenge, but I didn't feel I knew enough to sort of even question what the officers were doing. And I felt as chair, I should really be in a position to do that. Certainly I can and do it on the local government board from time to time. So I felt that really I wasn't entirely the best person. And we've now found somebody who is the best person, because following, a recruitment process, Martin, who will introduce himself, Martin, he and I have spoken on the phone, and I'm sure he'd already been effectively appointed, but his appointment has to be confirmed by the council in December, I think. Is that right, Deborah?
That's right, Chair.
His appointment, Martin's appointment, will be confirmed in December.
That's correct.
Yeah. So this is my swan song, and for those who didn't hear it earlier on, I've put on a collar and tie and so on for the event. First time, well, only the fourth time since February, but I just thought it would be suitable to mark the occasion in that way. So before we go to the agenda, I'd just like, if Martin could say a few words just to introduce himself, and then he will be formally confirmed in December and will chair the next meeting. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Keith. And I say, once I've spoken here, I shall just sit in the background and observe. Yes, as Keith said, I have had quite an involvement in fire pensions over the last 17 years. I would never claim I was an expert, because I think everybody claims they're an expert. I wouldn't trust them because there's so much detail involved in it. For those who don't know, my day job, I'm Treasurer and Director of Finance at Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service, where I am actually the designated scheme manager. So I do know a little bit about the scheme, I know a little, and I wouldn't say I know much, but I know a little about Warwickshire Fire and Rescue, because I was involved in the Project Arrow work that we did back in 2007. I shall not say any more unless anybody wants to ask me any questions. I shall just sit and observe your meeting now. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And I mean, obviously, I don't want to stop it. So if anybody has any questions, I'll give you the opportunity now. Otherwise, we will move to the agenda.
Chair, it's not a question for Martin, but just to observe that Anthony Morgan, Tony's joined us from the Fire and Rescue Service Association. He joined just as we were going live, so I think you might have just missed him. All
right. Okay. Welcome, Steve. Okay. Well, we move on to the agenda. All I would say is that although I've said what I've said about my knowledge and so on, and it's quite clear that Martin will have much more knowledge, and I think therefore we'll do a better job. I have enjoyed the job very much, and certainly the support from the officers has been excellent, and I'm sure will continue to be so in the future. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. You did say we have some apologies, which we should take formally now, I think, Deborah.
That's correct, Chair. We have apologies from Caroline Jones and Paul Morley.
Okay, thank you. We note that. And then, do we have any disclosures of interest? If not, we'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which I think people have in front of them. The minutes aren't very long. Page 1 doesn't have a great deal of substance, but if anybody has any questions on that. If not, page 2, and obviously we're looking here for any questions or any comments regarding the accuracy or completeness of the minutes. So page 2, paragraph 4, current pension issues, quite a bit of detail there. Then the next page refers to the fact that I'm stepping down. And then just next steps. We haven't really had detailed discussions, I must confess, about how we can get more people, but we've had general discussions in other contexts, and I'm sure we're doing all we can to get attendance as good as it might be. But if anybody has any bright ideas, please pass them through. You can mention it now or pass them through to the officers, and we'll take it from there. And obviously Martin will follow up in future. Okay, so unless anybody has any comments, we'll take those minutes as read and approved. I've done that.
Barnaby, again, just to make the point that Sean is here on behalf of the Fire Brigade Union, which was one of the items we raised at the last meeting. So that's one of the vacancies filled.
Excellent, excellent. Well, welcome again formally for the second time, Sean. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have pension. Next item is pension policies and review dates for Warwickshire Fire and Rescue. Is anybody going to take us through that?
Yep, good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Neil Buxton, Technical Specialist, Warwickshire County Council. Deal mainly on the local government pension scheme, but I've been asked to bring forward a couple of papers to today's meeting. Just to give you a bit of background to this, we need to have a few policies in place for the fire pension service schemes. Previously, we had relied on those policies that were in place for the local government pension scheme, but now there's been some extra resource within the pension service. We're in a position to draft some bespoke policies for the administration of the fire pension schemes. If you look on the appendix, we've identified the policies that we need to have in place, and we'll be bringing the three most important ones to you next March. I'm happy to take any comments on the paper.
Board members, comments or questions, please.
Yeah, can I ask a very simplistic question? Apologies.
Yes, Barney, thank you.
I'm not using the hands up function, I do apologise. Breaches, who might commit a breach? I know that's probably a bit simplistic, but can I ask that rather general question?
Yeah, surely. A good example would be, let's say if the county council didn't pay the contributions over in time, technically that would be a breach of the law. Or probably more relevant if the annual benefit statements weren't issued by the 31st of August. Technically that would be a breach as well.
And Neil, am I right in saying the red, amber, green sort of, procedure?
Yep. Yeah, thank you, Keith. That's the intention, that similar process will be rolled out. Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, red is when it's obviously major or significant and needs to be formally reported.
Yeah.
Amber is when it just needs to be noted. And green is, well, what's the difference between green and amber? Can you describe that?
I think amber is if there's been a couple of occasions that there's been a green breach.
Right. So we'll be following that. Can I just say, well, it's not a question, it's a comment actually, because I do chair the local government pension scheme as well. I attended an online seminar run by Aon Hewitt a week or so ago, not a seminar, presentation on cybersecurity. Did anybody else attend that by any chance?
Unfortunately,
because it was very good.
Yeah.
So what I will do, because just today I've received an email with, I think it's a recording of the actual event and the slides. I'll forward that to the officers, and then perhaps you can forward it to Neil. If I forward that to you, you can forward it to all board members for them to use as they see fit.
In fact, I think I've received it, Keith. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's aimed, I think, more so at the local government, but as it's about security and so on, because obviously we don't have investments in the way that the
that's right.
local government does. But certainly, for example, there's a very interesting piece in it about how people can spot and hopefully identify phishing emails, which are potential risks which I thought was quite useful and interesting.
Yeah,
So I'll forward that to
received
you.
one myself the other day.
Sorry?
I'd received one myself the other day.
I'll forward that to you, Neil, and then perhaps what you could, in fact, I'll take this opportunity of maybe you could forward it to, you know, well, all the other members of the local government pension side as well. I'll forward it to board members.
Okay, thank you,
Okay.
Keith.
Okay, thank you. So no more comments or questions?
Councillor Riley.
has got his hand up.
Chair, thank you. A question about the risk register, if you don't mind. Clearly, we're talking about arrangements that are fundamentally in place with support from Warwickshire County Council. And as you know, Chair, the Government Local Devolution Bill is due to be published hopefully in the spring, where we can have the debate about the future existence of local government structures across Warwickshire.
Yeah.
I think alongside that debate is a review of the Police and Crime Commissioner function and the services that are included in the Police and Crime Commissioner's remit. And clearly some parts of the country now operate a police and crime and fire board. So the fire service has transferred over to the PCC's office and out of the county council or whatever structure it was in. The question is, does the risk register pick up on these developments? And that development would clearly be that there is a potential that in a future structure, Warwickshire County Council would not exist.
Who can answer that for us?
Not me. Liz, have you got... Liz, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, just trying to unmute myself. So the risk register for the fire pension scheme is something that we'll be developing over the coming weeks and months. And exactly as you say, Councillor, we need to make sure that part of that process of developing the risk register is horizon scanning and taking into account exactly those sorts of things and the changes to or potential changes around local government reorganisation, PCCs and so on. Yeah, but it's a good prompt for us to make sure that that's one of the things we cover off.
Yeah.
Sounds to me for something for Martin to keep his eye on in future together with the board then, and this will be sort of work in progress then to some extent. Yeah.
I think Martin might have a contribution to make on this one, Chair. Martin,
okay, thank you.
It was only to say in terms of the risk register in relation to the pensions function, having sat with an authority that's been under threat of BCC takeover for 2 years and didn't happen. It didn't make a huge difference to the risks around the pension scheme and making sure that the scheme was run properly and the members of the scheme had the benefits that they're entitled to. Clearly, it has an impact on the how, but in terms of the other risks, it isn't necessarily a major issue. But as Liz said, horizon scanning was one of the things that should be on the register.
Okay. Are you happy with that? With the comments and the answers you've had?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As long as we've got it covered and considered, because it's going to, from what I can understand, it's going to be a live debate between now and 2023. So
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other comments or questions on this paper? Thank you, Neil. Okay, we'll move to agenda item 3, which I think is regulated. Is this Vicky going to take us through this one?
I can do it again, Chair, with help if there's any technical questions on this one. All this paper was about was just highlighting 2 major ongoing changes to the scheme, which I'm sure members are aware of. The first one is the update on Sergeant, which is more colloquially known within the pensions scenario as McLeod judgment. This is about a protection that was afforded to some firefighters and was found to be illegal on the grounds of age discrimination. There was a recent consultation issued by the government and Warwickshire have responded to that on the 11th of October. I don't know, Vicky, have you got any you want to go into the details of what the response was, or?
I can add into that if you would like. So with the public sector reforms to get rid of age discrimination, obviously the changes to the fire scheme are slightly different to what's happening with the local government schemes, where there is two options being took forward. So there's either an immediate choice. So when regulations change on the 1st of April 22, members would choose then what they want their benefits based on for the remedy period, or there's a deferred option choice where they could make that decision when they retire. So obviously waiting on what happens with the consultation response from the government, that will give us an indication as to what work we need to do when to fix the discrimination in the fire schemes. So once that comes through, there'll be further communication coming out to the board to assess the work that we need to undertake.
Thank you. We have a more detailed report on McLeod in just a moment, don't we, anyway?
Yeah.
Any questions and comments from board members on what you've heard from Neil and Vicky, please? Questions or comments?
I have one comment, Chair. It's about immediate detriment cases. I'm not sure if it's covered in more detail in the next report, but I just wanted to put on record our thanks for the way the authority is treating immediate detriment cases. We've had one individual just leave us after an assessment by independent qualified medical practitioner, and the authority has taken the view that they're going to assume that he is entitled to the 92 scheme benefits, which hopefully will make things easier in the long run for all parties. So I just wanted to put that one on record now. Thanks. Thank you, Barnaby.
Okay, I'll carry on, Chair. The second part of the paper was about a second options exercise for what's known as Special Members of the Fire Pension Scheme 2006. This follows a ruling by the European Court of Justice on a case concerning whether fee-paid judges should have been allowed access to a judicial pension scheme. They won their case, and this means that the option should be open to special firefighters prior to the 1st of July 2000. I don't have any further information about timescales at this stage, but again, we will keep the board updated on what is going to be a big exercise for service.
Indeed. Comments or questions? Does Tony wants to speak?
Yeah, hello, Chair. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, in relation to the subject on the pensions, I'm aware that certainly discussions are happening, obviously, down in government, and I believe that there is some issues they've got to address, but they hope to move them forward. And I believe there's been very good consultation going on with the representative bodies in the fire service. So I'm hopeful that things will move forward quite quickly, but in relation to the administration of it will probably be difficulties, because a lot of fire and rescue services, and I hope Warwickshire's not in this, but they do have quite poor paperwork and held paperwork on previous pension or individuals who are entitled to pension. So that may be something that could be a risk, could be placed on the risk register as a horizon scanning.
I think it is a potential problem, yeah. Thank you, Tony.
So something that will be watched, and we'll bear that in mind then, Neil and Vicky. Yeah.
Thank you. That's me done. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. If not, we'll move on to item 4, which I think is the administration update. No, is that Vicky this time?
That is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vicky. Over to you.
Okay, so this report gives an update on what's been happening in the Pensions Administration service with the work we're doing on the fire schemes at the minute. Item 4 obviously is just bringing to attention the fact that Martin's going to join us officially in December as the Pension Board Chair. The Pensions Administration Service has seen a change so that we have got new members of the team working on fire. That has led to an improvement in the service. And we're actually working more closely with payroll and HR now, so that we can address issues with data and make sure that members are getting the correct information through from both payroll and pensions. Myself, Ian Morris, who's the team leader, who's taken control of the fire administration, have been working quite closely with Barnaby and Paul Morley, and also with HR, with the payroll, Mick West, to make sure that it's clear what our roles and responsibilities are and what information we need when, so that we can give the members the pension information that they need and that's accurate. Item 5 is just telling you about the membership numbers. So I thought it'd be interesting to the board so that you can see the split across the 3 different schemes. Obviously that is going to be subject to change with the age discrimination, meaning that some of those members are going to move back into older schemes. The annual benefit statements, obviously that was done back in August, but just to confirm that all fire statements were sent out by the 31st of August deadline. Item 7, data quality. So each year we have several reports run across the system to assess the quality of data we have for fire. That is split into 2 categories: common data, which represents things like name, address, date of birth. That's got quite a high score of 96%. The scheme specific data, which is looking at data specific for the different schemes and in particular, you know, certain indicators of pay and HMRC indicators, things like that. That score is 58.8. So we are looking to improve that data. You know, TPR are looking for us to improve on that data. So we've got quite a bit of work to do just to bring that up to standard. The score for this year does represent an increase from last year, so there has been some significant work done to bring that up, but there is more work to be done, and there is a work plan that's been put together to identify the issues we need to address and make sure that's done for the next time these reports are run.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. Well, just showing that although this is the sort of thing, you know, I think Chair should do, but I didn't always feel confident when we were talking about 3 schemes, for example, or you know, but on this, the scheme specific data, I'm not going to pin you down to a specific figure, but obviously 96% looks sort of very acceptable. Whilst noting the improvement on scheme specific data, 58% is obviously much lower, or 59% nearly, much lower. I mean, this is probably an unfair question. Your first, or your second meeting, my last, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You know, what sort of time scale? I mean, what sort of figure would you be aiming to get to, and when would you hope to be getting there? Are we talking about 6 months, a year, or longer before you'd have a much higher figure than that?
I would say that definitely within the next 6 months we would look to increase that score.
Well, you have increased it already, of course, haven't you?
Yeah. So some of the issues that we have because of the 3 schemes, some of them are what I would call legacy issues. So the 1992 scheme being an old scheme, the records that were set up for those members was where we just set up the bones of a record and information for paying benefits, as long as that's held there. Some of these reports that we do is looking for other information that we might never add into that record now because it wasn't needed to calculate the benefits. So that there are actually scores run against the 3 different schemes, and the work we need to do that we can do to fix the score and get it higher will be on the 2006 and 2015 schemes. And that's where some of it is to do with the collection of data, how we've collected data from payroll and put it onto records. And some of it is about the processes that we do for fire. So when these reports were run, there were certain processes that should have been done first that would make the data look cleaner. So that there's lots of things that we can do to improve the scores between now and when they're next run. But we're already seeing an improvement with the change of personnel working on the fire schemes to get those records more up to date. So I'm hoping when these reports get run again next year, you'll see a much better improvement in that score.
Good, thank you. That's encouraging. Board members, any questions or comments, please, to Vicky?
Yep, Martin.
Really, just to echo what Vicky was saying about the scheme specific data. I was interested in whether you'd got a split between the schemes, because I think from the board's point of view, if you've got data in the 92 scheme which is legacy data that doesn't affect the ability of somebody to be paid correctly. So one example I was going to give, it doesn't have a date that individual retired when it's being paid as a dependent pension. It makes no difference to the pension, as long as the board actually understands where those errors are coming from, understands they're making no difference. I don't think, you need to think about where's it best to put your resource. Is it best to put your resource into trying to correct records that aren't making a difference, or try to do it elsewhere? So
yeah,
I think that's quite important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's been took into account for the data work plan records where we're historical issues that we're never going to fix. They're not even on that list.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Barnaby.
Barnaby, yeah.
Just partly to back what Vicky has said, that actually the picture is improving already with Vicky herself, Andy and Morris, and we have two individuals who are familiar with the fire service pension scheme, whereas previously we had people who were doing their best but weren't familiar with the scheme. But I also want to just a note for Sian and for Tony, if I may, as that 58.8% improves, that is going to mean that some of your members are going to be getting individual letters saying, actually, you've been in the wrong scheme, or you're opted out when you weren't meant to be, or whatever. If you could work with us, please, as we try to put these right, that would be much appreciated. And obviously make sure your members are properly represented. And I can speak on that before Morley is not here. I know he's doing that with his FOA hat on as well. So just to make that point.
Yes, thank you, Barnaby. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it? Any other comments or questions? Okay, all I would say is that in my role with the local government pension board, certainly there's been incredible improvement in the past year. I think no reflection on the officers who were there and are still there, but really resource has been improved. There was a lack of resource. Vicky has arrived. We've got another lady, Victoria, on the investment side, and Andy's arrived as sort of overseeing things. We still have Chris and Liz and Neil. So we did have some breaches issues a year or so ago, which were causing a bit of concern on the local government side. And there's been a marked improvement. So it's pleasing, not surprising, but pleasing to see that we're seeing the same here. And as you've said, Barnaby, I mean, Vicky has, a lot of knowledge and so on, and comes from a background which I think will serve the board and the service well. She services both boards with distinction, if I may say so. Okay, if everybody's happy, I will move on. This is your last time to wave your show. Yeah, Marcus.
Hello, Chair. If I could just put on the record, say thank you to Vicky and the teams that are actually going through this process. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Sorry, I misread that then. Okay. That being so, we finished with item 4. We're moving to item 5. We're back to MacLeod, and I suspect this may be Vicky again, but I may be wrong.
Yep, no, that's me. Thank you, Chair. So part of the MacLeod remedy situation is that we've got members of the fire service that could have retired between now and April 22 and have a better set of benefits because they'd be able to take it on final salary benefits rather than having an element of care added into that. The Home Office issued an immediate detriment guidance document that explained that fire authorities could decide to calculate members' benefits on final salary for the remedy period, so that they weren't put in a disadvantaged situation where they're going to have benefits if we were to do them under current regulations, where they'd get their pot from the final salary scheme and then a bit from care, and that wouldn't equate to the same benefit being paid, which they could have had all from the final salary scheme. This has created some challenge for the administration service. There are some members that have very complex records and benefits, which has meant that, you know, to consider to use this document, we can't say a blanket, yes, it will be used. We will assess each case on its own merits. And if we feel we're capable and able to apply it to the benefits, then we will do. But this document isn't without its issue of we've got legal advice from WCC legal department. We've had some information from the LGA supplied as well on a legal opinion. And basically they've said we've got to try and make the decision ourselves as to whether we follow it. But we've got to have in our minds, you know, the challenge that could bring if we pay the benefits based on the final salary scheme. Is that the right thing to do for the member? What are the implications if we don't do that? So this document is just to specify that the decision has been made that we will follow it where we can, and that's the decision that's been made, and so that members will hopefully get the benefits of getting their pension benefits based on that final salary scheme, and get rather than us having to do it on one set of rules now and then having to revisit later once the regulations have changed come April 2022. So this is just for you to note that decision has been made.
Thank you, Vicky. So, is that it? That you're finished? Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Questions or comments, please? Barnaby, I think.
Yes, Chair. I went early on my vote of thanks to the authority for the approach they're taking on this. So just to reiterate, it's appreciated. We think it'll make it simpler in the long run for all concerned.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, well, thank you again, Vicky. I think this all just demonstrates the improved quality of service that we're getting, and is very much appreciated, and we thank you for it. Okay, the next item, if you're all happy for me to move on, I'll move to the next steps. I mean, obviously I won't be around there, so I don't think it's for me to say what they might be, but if any officer or board member has anything they want to just log as what they consider to be an appropriate next step, now is your chance. Deborah will make a note of it, and it can be discussed with Martin and then discussed in more detail at future meetings. So board members first. Does anybody have anything in mind they think should be a next step?
Chair, potentially an update on the outsourcing arrangements that were being discussed a few months ago. Liz has a hand up now. I've prompted something.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Barbie. It relates to the fire data quality item that was in the pensions admin update report. One of the things that we want to do is make sure that we've got all of that data quality up to standard before we move ahead with the outsourcing of the fire pensions administration. Obviously, it's much better to hand over something where you know that it's in a good state first. So we'll see how much work we can do over the coming months to make sure that we get those scores up, and then we'll look at proceeding again with the outsourcing.
Okay, thank you. I'll log that as a next step. Anything else from the board? If not, officers, do you have anything that you want to log at this stage, or will it just come along as a matter of course?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, right, thank you. I've had no prior notice of any other business. Do we have any other business?
No, Chair.
Nothing from me, Chair.
Okay, we then have the dates of future minutes, so you have those on your agenda, and hopefully people will note those. And at that point, I suppose, formally declare the meeting closed. Can I just say again how much I've enjoyed it? I wish you well, and certainly taking my chairman's hat off, but just speaking as an individual, how much I think people generally value the service that the fire and rescue service provide, and particularly not just in the way most people think of them, responding to fires, but also with flooding and so on. And we've seen a lot of that in Wales recently, and it news today. In fact, I was just watching now about people having suffered trauma through flooding and then through COVID. And then again, the fire service has played a sterling part in supporting communities through the COVID crisis. So personally, can I just take this, as I bow, take this opportunity to give you my personal thanks for all the excellent work you do, and wish you well and bid you farewell.
Thank you very much.
Very kind of you, Chair, and we'd like to respond in kind. Thank you for everything you've done for this board and the dedication you've shown. It really has been appreciated.
Oh, well, thank you, Bound. I've done my best, and as I say, it's not that I haven't enjoyed it, but I think there are occasions when probably there's been items of detail when I felt I should have known more about this, and I'm sure Martin will. So all the best, Martin. Obviously, we have each other's contact point. I think this is extremely unlikely, but in the event, if you have any questions, I'm sure the officers or the board members can answer. But if ever you think that I can help in any way, please feel free. Okay, well, it's a little early. Otherwise, I will just wish you all a happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye all. Good luck.